to Monday Mornings with Marc Hayford. Boom! I'm your host, Marc Hayford, and this show is a show that is back, baby, just like Monday is, so we had to show back up. This is the kickoff of Season 3. I'm your host, Marc Hayford, and joining me today is a rock star who is going to help us. We are going to carry people who cannot walk. We are going to give vision to those who can't see. Ladies and gentlemen, author, public speaker, rock star, put your hands together for the man who wrote On Fire. It's John O'Leary.
Thank you. Please take your seats. Take your seats. Too much.
John, I'm sweating. This is Thank you so much for taking the time, because so many people want a piece of John O'Leary.
Well, man, it's an honor, and so many people have given John O'Leary a piece of their lives, of their talent, of their prayers, and the least I can do is offer up a little bit of my time to not only you, Mark, but to your community. So I'm a big fan, and I'm delighted to be on your podcast.
So happy to have you, man. Thank you so much. This is the new book, The 7 Choices to Ignite a Radically Inspired Life. On fire! Dude, this book's on fire. First of all, let's get it out right off the bat. It's been endorsed by Dave Ramsey, right? Joe Buck from Fox Sports, tons of New York Times bestselling authors. Okay, John, can we get raw here? It's Monday Mornings with Marc, right?
Bring it on.
You should not be here because you should be dead. That's the premise of the book. A 9-year-old little boy back in 1987 was playing with fire and gasoline. Take us there.
Right. So 9 years old, I'm a curious little Midwest kid from the States. I'd seen little guys in my neighborhood playing with fire and gasoline. I assumed if they could do it, so could I. The result, of course, Mark, was this massive explosion. Blasted me 20 feet against the far side of the garage, set my world on fire, left me with burns literally on 100% of my body, and 87% of those burns were 3rd degree. That's a death sentence today. But 3 decades ago, mid-80s, there is no chance this little guy is going to survive. And yet, I love even those 2 words together, and yet, through grace and prayers and mom and dad and doctors and nurses and the heroism of my brothers and sisters, I know we won't have time to unpack all this today. I'm here. I'm here in a mighty way. 5 months in the hospital, great nurses, great volunteers, letters. I know you're big into letters. Maybe we'll get there later on in the show. We had letters coming in from the White House, from the Vatican, from Israel, from all over the world of people saying, hey, we've heard about this. We're behind this. We're pulling and praying for you. So I'm here in spite of myself in some regards because so many people showed up and made a difference for me.
I mean, that was 100% of your body burn. Not like you're having a bad day, like you should be dead. And I'm going to tell you something. This book is so amazing, not only just for what is written in it and the way you've written it. So some people turned me on to the audio version of it. Okay, the audio version is just as if not more powerful, because you are literally hearing your voice and the emotion that is coming with it. And towards the end of the program, we're going to give some info as far as where people can go get more of that. What just blows me away, first of all, I have a heart for kids, and there's a lot of pictures at the end of the book, which I appreciate because you really put names with faces and everything.
Totally. We wanted to make sure people knew, there's a lot of memoirs out now, which means you don't really know what's real and what's not. What I can say about On Fire is every sentence is dead on. Every character is factual. Every picture is verifiable. This stuff is real. It's a miraculous story. I had an editor who was helping me work through this, and she says, John, something terrible happened when I was 4. She lost her father, and she did not believe in God from 4 until the age where she currently is. And she says, I got to the end of this book, and it is impossible for me to realize that there was not something guiding this story forward. It's just too simply miraculous. And I think that's true in On Fire. It's true for John O'Leary. But I would say this, my friends, listeners, it's true in your life. The very fact that you are here, whether you're tuning in Australia, the UK, Canada, wherever you may be tuning in today, the very fact that you are here is nothing short of a great miracle. And waking up to that truth will allow you to also see the clouds, the sunshine, the cash, the debt, the challenges, the headache, the opportunities as the gift that it always is.
You were very in detail with a lot of things that we take for granted. Things like so specific about this incredible journey of the pain, the agony that this little boy went through on this road to recovery. Things from taking a bath to having your joints and ligaments stretch. If you have a second here, touch on some of these people that really touched your lives, like Nurse Roy.
Sure. So Nurse Roy was the old burn tech. Now they call them CNAs. But back then, he's a tech. He's an assistant to the nurses. He's about a minimum wage employee. And his job, Mark, is to get a little boy from bed to the bandage change, period. Just do that job and get your check. But this guy was on fire with mission and purpose, and he realized that every life mattered, his and the little guy in bed. And he would come into my room every morning. I'm 9 years old. I'm tied down to this hospital bed. There is no real chance of me surviving this, but he wanted to provide a little bit of hope. So he would unhook me from the bed, pick me up in his arms, get me upright, and start dragging me back toward the bandage change. He would whisper into my right ear every morning, boy, you are going to walk again. You might as well get used to it. Come on, I'll walk with you. Every morning, that's the encouragement. He would guide me back. I hated him. I hated him. I hated him. He's a liar. And about 4 months in, Mark, like on one of those walks back, it just turned for me. I realized, hey, maybe then I can't bear my weight, but someday I will. And someday I'm going to walk. Someday I'm going to run. Someday I'm going to have a great life again. And the reason I have a great life in some regard today, the reason I walked down the altar, and the reason I walk and run and dance through life is because one CNA, one ordinary, in quotes, individual believed it and encouraged it and fought to make it a reality. So there are so many heroes in my story. But I'm so glad you called out Roy, because he's seemingly a very ordinary guy. And yet, like the rest of us ordinary leaders, there's nothing ordinary about any life. Yeah, he certainly changed mine.
Okay. Hey, let's talk about this. So what was harder to deal with? Was it that whole road back with Nurse Roy, or was it being a fan of St. Louis sports teams? I mean, what's going on out there, man? I mean,
So I mean, we're decades apart in the question. One was a little 9-year-old kid struggling mightily, and the next question is about, hey man, we are struggling in baseball a little bit. Although I think this is our year again. We have lost our football team. Although sometimes in order to grow, you got to let something else go, and letting go of our Los Angeles Rams, letting them leave St. Louis may not be the end of the world. They were a difficult team to love for 2 decades, and I now wish you in California all the best with our Rams. Good luck on that one.
Yeah.
Let them ruin your Sunday afternoons.
You heard it first here on Monday Mornings with Marc Hayford from John O'Leary. All right, check this out. Well, hey, you credited some very influential sports figures out of St. Louis, talking about Jack Buck, who played such a huge part in your life, announcer for the Cardinals, and also – This was a great story. Towards the tail end of the book, Gino Cavallini, who played for the Blues, right? And I grew up an Islanders fan. It was easy back in that era. You know, I have a friend. His name's Lubo, and Lubo's a Rangers fan.
How about that, man? That makes no sense.
Rangers. Lubo, come on. Anyway, forget Lubo, yeah, I mean, Jack Buck, very influential in your and helping you to learn how to write. Is that correct? Because your mom wasn't doing it trying to get you, hey, you get better, you can go back to school. Or Buck saying, hey, listen, you write a letter in,
right,
get you a baseball from a professional sign from one of the professionals. And didn't you wind up writing over 60 letters to get?
That's exactly right, Mark. It's an amazing story that began in the hospital when I had no chance. And this announcer, and he's a busy guy. I think sometimes we view these people as just ambassadors of good. Well, yeah, and he broadcasts more than 190 Cardinal games a year, because preseason, postseason, 162. He did football. He did a little bit of hockey. He was married. He had some kids. He had his own life. And yet in the midst of the storm that we all are navigating, this man found time to spend a couple days a week with a little boy named John O'Leary. He brought me down to the ballpark to celebrate my survival from the hospital. And then he learns that night, and you can look at the camera right now. There you go, guys and gals. I don't have fingers. So Jack saw me that night at the baseball stadium and realized this poor little kid can't do anything. He can't hold a bottle of water or a can of beer or anything else back then. He sure can't hold a pen. So this wonderful guy thinks to himself that night, gosh, what more can I do? And the following day, to your point, he sends me a baseball signed by Ozzie Smith, this great Hall of Fame shortstop. Below the ball was a note that said, kid, if you want a second baseball, send a thank you letter to the guy who signed the first. And
that name is one that will inspire you to do that too.
Oh, man. And to be honest, any baseball. When you're a kid, if the bullpen catcher who has no name on the back of his jersey signs it for you, you're high-fiving your buddies at school. So there you go, man. Pump that glove.
Pump it, baby.
This guy sent me in time 60 baseballs teaching this little boy with no chance, no fingers, no ability to write, how to take back a step toward life, brought me back to grade school, which led to high school and college and everything else that unfolded afterwards. Because I think it's important, he did little things really well. It wasn't the big stuff. He did the big stuff well too. But what I think Jack Buck understood, the gravitas of, is doing the little stuff like it matters, because it does. Like the little things matter profoundly.
John, what is an inflection point? You talk about them a lot in your book. Tell the viewers, what's an inflection point?
Yeah, I mean, inflection points are things in our life that change everything that happened afterwards. And I think it's easy to say, okay, so give us some examples, John. Divorce, birth, death, bankruptcy, new job, new date tonight, new opportunity at the organization that you're partnering with, whatever. These are big inflection points. We get that. I think what we don't see as clearly, though, is that every opportunity in front of us each day, every experience, every chance podcast, Mark, the time we're spending together, your listeners who are tuning in, the decision they made this Monday morning to tune in, it's an inflection point. You could be tuning in to crud if you wanted. No one's going to judge you because everybody else is tuning in to it. But you tune into something where you can grow yourself, which might mean later on in the day when there's an opportunity to do the left instead of right, and you choose to do it, it may change your life, or it may change the barista that you're in front of, or it may change the spouse or the children you're parenting, or the relationship you have with your loved ones. Everything in life, and I'm not trying to be overly general, but I'll say this again, it all matters. And once you know that, that means every moment we have is sacred. There are no chance occurrences. There's nothing bad necessarily that happens. It's just an opportunity for us to pivot left or right and to do something even bigger and better with our life afterwards.
Did a lot of coaching in the past year for Pop Warner football, middle school kids. And a lot of my message to them is we don't win or lose. We win or we learn. You know, you can grow from situations. I think that's important. Hey, let me ask you this. So you graduated college with a finance degree. And then as you pointed out, you know, you are an amputee, and here you start contracting. I mean, why and how? What's up with
Well, I don't think we have time on the podcast if you strung together 4 Mondays in a row to really answer that. But in short, it would be this, Mark. I think looking back on my life, and it's hard to see your life in 2020 lens when you're living it. But looking back on my life, after I got burned, my decision was to be normal. So it wasn't to be extraordinary or to stand out or to become a great inspirational speaker, whatever the thing is that we do each day. I just wanted to be a normal guy, to fit in and to be gray matter. And in many regards, that's what I did in grade school, middle school, high school, not showing my scars that go from my neck to my toes, and certainly have taken my fingers from me, but to fit in. And so I did everything like everybody else was doing, nothing more, nothing less. I gave into peer pressure very easily. We could go down that path much longer. I don't think we need to today, but anything that anybody else was doing, I was raising my hand to. Well, one of the things I decided, I think, looking back on it, is if you could think of a job that would be the least likely job for a guy to find success, being a carpenter, being a general contractor, learning how to hang cabinets and sheet roofs and hang drywall and everything else you do when you're contracting out a house, that's about the hardest job to take on. And that's what you do, John. Why? And I think looking back on it, it was to climb the ladder of success, to get to the very top and to scream out, hey, world, friends, family, maybe girlfriend someday, look how ordinary I am. I'm like everybody else. There's nothing to see here. What changed me and allowed me to climb back down that ladder and to be real with my life was my mom and dad's book. This book that made me realize this tragedy, these amputations, these skin grafts, the pain of therapy and everything else we went through was, in fact, a word you used a moment ago, an inflection point. This remarkable gift. It wasn't always easy. It wasn't always the path we would have chosen, but it led perfectly to where I was at about the age of 28. It led perfectly to a chance encounter with a brunette named Elizabeth Grace, which led to a chance encounter on an altar where we said I do to one another. It's led to 14 years of marriage and 4 kids later. I have an incredible life, but I'm not sure I would have ever fully embraced the gift of it all had my mom and dad not reminded me that the fire was the best of it.
Did you read that book?
Because it led to everything else.
When that book first dropped, your parents' book, not On Fire, when your parents' book dropped, you hated it, right?
It was, hate's a big word, but I was shocked. I thought no one would read it, and I thought that the story was unworthy. It was only after actually reading it that I realized, wow, what a book, what a story, what parents. what
Mm-hmm.
siblings, what faith, what community, a whole lot of things I'd ignored. I mean, I don't think most of us look up to our parents when we're 26, 27 years old. Most of us don't realize what our siblings went through when all the attention is cascading toward us when we're in the hospital, because we're feeling sorry for ourselves. We're the one that got burned, and we don't have the ability, the mental acuity to realize, wow, where was their mom and dad when they were going through those 6 difficult months themselves? Well, they were completely engrossed in me. And where were they for the couple of years afterwards? Mom and dad were on me. So my siblings lost out on this, and tragedy, and we all have been through tragedy, either has a way of pushing us apart from our loved ones or pulling us together. And in this fire, in this inflection point, it united my mom and dad. It brought my 5 siblings and I together. We remain extraordinarily close today. They're heroes in my story.
You know, wow. I mean, and clearly the relationship you have and have had with your parents over the years, you go all through the book with that, and 2 amazing people. I mean, just to not only have the courage to encourage you, but for themselves in those dark moments and the times of silence when they have to look in the mirror and look at each other. What strong people to do that. Well, if I had to change the title of your book, I would change it to Perspective. Because I mean, this is your mantra from what I'm hearing. I mean, like you talk about a couple times in the book, you give towards the back end of it. You talk about the first time that your children ever went on a train ride with you, and as you're sitting, they were so excited to get on the train, and it was great. And everybody else that's on the train, they have this look of mundane, bored, yes, surviving day to day. You talk about the time where you went into the prison, and the first time you went into a prison, which you were a little admittingly nervous about, right? And
yeah, more than a little, but yes, I appreciate you trying to prop me up.
I'm trying to do what I can. No, but amazing story. How these, you ask them, what are you thankful for? And one guy said, not a damn thing. And another, same orange jumpsuit, same meals, same beds, same bars. Another guy got up and had 31 different points, and it was everything from leaving past circumstances to making new friends to having 3 meals a day to blah blah blah. Your whole life is perspective, man, and I think you're good about showcasing that to others.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I really appreciate you reading the book and grabbing onto those stories. Our life, plural, is all about perspective. The mistake we make, and I'm part of that problem, I'm sure you are too, Mark, and everyone we know is we forget it. We forget the gift of the orange jumpsuit and the 3 square meals, and the guy went on to say heat in the winter and air in the summer and hot showers in the library, and dude, he just went on and on and on. The gift of his life, and this is a lifer. This is Fort Leavenworth, man. The dude's not coming out anytime soon. And yet he, instead of seeing his life as having no gifts like the first guy did, he saw it all. Not what he did not have, because he didn't have a whole lot. I mean, he was lacking mightily in many areas. He saw what he did. And I think, Mark, for the most part, those of us who have the most, many of them candidly listening to the podcast today, because first world nations, man, we got it. We got Wi-Fi and everything else. Those of us who have the most frequently give gratitude in the least, and those that have the least are most grateful for the most. So let's shift that today. And the book is called On Fire, but fine, let's call it Perspective. But let's remind everybody, it's not just John O'Leary, it's each one of us that has the ability in our lives to wake up and to realize the profound gift in front of us right now, regardless of what we're staring at. The 4 walls that are gray and murky and they have bars on one side, or the office suite, a penthouse, baby. We're fortunate. Let's act like it.
And the only people I could think probably less fortunate in that book from Leavenworth prisoners are the sports fans for the Rams. But forget that. John, listen, man, we have lots of people that want to talk to you from literally all over the world.
Awesome.
We do this little section as we're here we are on our first episode of season 3. John, are you ready to go into the Marc Hayford mailbag?
Mr. Rogers has dropped off the mail, man. I'm ready to read from it. So yes, bring it on.
Do it, baby.
Open up the mail. And by the way, while you grab that bag, my wife's dad was a letter carrier.
Is that right?
I've seen your show before. I know you pull out a letter bag here in a moment. And I saw that little bag hanging around his office for many, many, many years. We recently lost my father-in-law, great guy named Joe. But I have admiration not only for people who deliver mail, but also for the ladies and gentlemen who write it towards you and ask questions of me.
That's how I met my wife. I was a mail carrier years ago when I had hair, okay? And I stalked her, ran into her on a route, and the
rest is history.
Marc Hayford mailbag, Marc Hayford mailbag, Marc Hayford mailbag from the U.S. Postal Service. All right, John. right. We got people here, man.
That's awesome.
People want to talk to you. All right, here we go. All right, John, first question. And I had so many that reached out to me, so I'm going to do the best I can to get them all in quick. This is from Leslie Gerson out of Westchester, New York. No sleep till. She said, what affirmations do you say daily to keep your mind in a great place? Do you have any affirmations that you could suggest to Leslie?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. First of all, thank you, Leslie. I wake up, I go immediately into a fairly meditative, prayerful state. I think if not, the day runs me rather than me run the day. So I always set aside about half an hour in the morning. I'm a believer, so I go towards scripture. I have a few blogs that I follow that help me a lot. As far as affirmation goes, there was a great quote years ago, and I forget who wrote it, maybe Meister, some other name, but the quote is, if the only prayer you ever mutter are the words, thank you, that is enough. If the only words you ever mutter are the words, thank you, that's enough. So I think regardless of your faith background, I would encourage all of you, even those of you who choose not to have any faith background at this point, man, it came from somewhere, I think. I don't think it's all accidental. I think it's worthy of a journey to say, gosh, so where did it all come from and where do we all return to? And while we're trying to figure all this out, let's utter the words, thank you. So that's been helpful for me, not only in the morning, but all day long. A flight delay, thank you. A crabby spouse, thank you. Iced water in front of me or no water at all, thank you. It's a really cool way to stay focused on what I have and maybe what I'm not missing out on throughout my day. And the second affirmation that is equally powerful are the words. And on the front side of any relationship, and Mark, you know this from the book, I always utter the words, I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Mm-hmm. And I do that on podcasts before we go live. I do it when I'm ordering coffee in the morning. I do it as I'm getting my crabby kids to bed in the evening. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And for me, it takes all the pressure off of performing. And it takes all the pressure off of them also. And it just allows me to uncross my arms, open up my heart. What frequently happens is they'll respond in kind. So thank you. And I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Two great prayers to lift up each morning.
I love it. I said that to the garbage man about 3 weeks ago. I haven't seen him since. All the trash is. No, I'm kidding. All right,
yeah,
John, Canada. Here we go. Canadians. All right. This is my buddy Michel Brisson. He's from Greeley, Ontario, and he asked, "What does a day in the life look like of John O'Leary? Do you have any daily rituals?" Well, what do you say for Michel Brisson?
Well, first of all, thank you and welcome, Canada. We're thrilled you're here, and I do. Many Americans don't have passports. I happen to have one, and I happen to have traveled not only the world, but I love Canada. So my Canadian friends right now, you guys rock. As far as the question, three things. This is part of my ritual. We answered part of the question already. Wake up in the morning and say thank you. Well, how do you get to that point? I journal every single morning the question, why me? Not from a place of victimhood, but from a place of great gratitude. So my day always begins in gratitude, thoughtful, prayerful reflection on why me. As I go through my day, I ask the question, who cares? If it's hard, if it's a struggle, if there are delays, if the audience doesn't seem engaged right now, who cares, man? Let's get after it. Let's live as fully, as vibrantly, and as on purpose and on fire as we possibly can right now. It's all you got. You don't have tomorrow for sure. So soak up this moment. Who cares? It's a great question to ask when we have the right mindset around it. And the third question, the third process you asked about, this one comes at nighttime. And the question I'd encourage you to ask right now and this evening and tomorrow evening is, what more can I do? What more can I do at home? What more can I do in my faith walk? What more can I do in the community as a speaker? For those of you in sales, I realize a lot of your followers are sales folks. So what more can I do in leadership or sales? What more can I do for a burnt up kid down the street in a hospital bed right now? There are so many opportunities. What this allows us to do is to capture one, just one, to write it down and action around it, and then to have the gall the following day to take action. Done incrementally over time, this will transform your life. So if you're looking for one thing, my Canadian friends, or from anywhere else in the globe, ask the question, what more can I do? And in 365 days, get back with me and tell me what's happened. It'll change your world.
Wow. Serving others. It's amazing. I love it. Okay.
Let's one piece too, serving yourself. What more can I do to grow spiritually? What more can I do to start saving for retirement? What more can I do to pay off that debt? What more can I do to not have a crappy attitude every day? Great, man. Ask the question, get the answer, take action.
I love it. I love it. All right. Hey, listen, let's jump across the pond, man. We're going to Cheshire, the UK. This is from Ian Pritchard. He wants to know, what is the one thing you would say to someone going through a difficult time right now? What do you got for Ian?
Well, first of all, Ian, one thing that always humbles me about questions is they're normally asked from a place of great intensity. Like, we don't ask things because we don't care. We ask things because we're in the midst of whatever we're curious about. So I would imagine you or a colleague, maybe a family member, or you're in the midst of this thing right now. And I appreciate that. I think words are hollow during times of great loss. We have had a significant loss recently in our community. And for me, as I try to walk with this family through it, one of my secret sauces is to say very little. I found when I was going through the storms in life, whether that's never having a girlfriend until I'm 23. That's a storm, actually. Being burned at age 9, almost losing my business at age 27, struggling at various other points. Words are so cheap. What is not cheap, though, is presence. And so I would encourage you, if it's someone around you, to show up, to be that presence, to not try to fix things that are wrong with your articulate answers to their questions, but to sometimes sit back and say, gosh, I don't know. Like, I can't even imagine what it's like to lose your spouse, or to be bankrupt, or to get the diagnosis you've received. So if it's for someone else, just be there for them. When everybody else is running for the exits, you come in and watch what happens. And then secondly, if it's you, and I'm coming at this from a pretty faithful position, I would suggest that this is not the end. Like this thing, whatever this thing is, like this story doesn't end like this. So breathe in, breathe out, pray on, fight on, don't give up, turn the page tomorrow and see what happens, because the best is in front of you. If you can get burned on your entire body and have an awesome life, from those around us who've gone through incredible storms, for the most part, when you look back at what you went through, you realize you may not have wanted it. You may not want to ever go through it again, but you're in a better place today than you ever were years ago.
You know, I think another, and I'll paraphrase loosely, probably destroy the quote, but I think we're leaning towards John Lennon saying something along the lines of, in the end, it will be all right. So if it's not all right, it's not the end.
Amen.
So
Lennon's on to something.
Yeah, he was all right. All right. Hey, one more. Oh, look at this. Tara Brandsma from Denver, Colorado. Hey, you know what, John? She's probably Denver Broncos fan.
I would imagine she may be a Broncos fan.
Yeah, she might be, lucky girl. All right, Tara Brandsma says, John, looking towards the future, what gets you excited? John O'Leary, what excites you?
So there's a lot there. I'll give you two simple answers.
Okay.
One is my mission statement for life. So if you ask me, John, why do you get out of bed early? And I do. Why do you stay up late? I do. Why do you smile and have this goofy grin on your face all day long, even during flight delays? I've had people in the airport actually say to me randomly, these are people I don't know, I'm just in line. I've had a guy one time in Minneapolis, for the Minneapolis listeners, turn around and say, what the F are you smiling about? And he was kind enough to spell the word out for me, so I knew exactly where he was coming from. I'm a happy dude on purpose. But why? My mission statement for life is because, the thing that turns me on, because God demands it, my family deserves it, and the world is starved for it.
Say that again.
Yeah, it's the answer to the question, John, why will you thrive? Why will you thrive? Because God demands it, my family deserves it, and the world is starved for it. And I believe that, and I think it works in every setting, from podcasts to dinner tables to boardrooms to 20,000 people in an audience. It jacks me up for my day. In any setting. I'm not a speaker when I say that. I'm a human being, sometimes speaking, sometimes parenting, sometimes giving baths. So that's one thing. And then as far as success, man, like, I have revenue targets and a whole lot of other things we track as a business. But at the end of the day, I seek justice, love mercy, try to walk humbly with God. It's a 2,600-year-old quote from Scripture. I think what is true then is true today. And I think we try to pretend like there's new stuff under the sun, like, oh, they'll never understand my problems. Well, the problems really haven't changed that much. It's generally related to ego or relationships, loss. It's the same problem. Now we just have iPhones to Google search things, but the problems remain. And I think the solutions remain the same. So I try to be humble about it, but in that humility, also extraordinarily hungry to do even better work tomorrow than I did today.
Wow. Ready? Here we go. Boom! The bomb.com just dropped here by John O'Leary on Monday Mornings with Marc Hayford. Holy mackerel. Oh, man. You're like a well full of just motivational resources.
It just went dry, man. I got nothing left. So
well, that's okay, because we're gonna be respectful of your time, and we're gonna wrap this baby up and bring it home. But you put in your book on page 145. Okay, refuse to become stagnant by purposefully growing and intentionally stretching in every area of life. And you clearly, sir, do that and inspire others. And we here and all the fan base of Monday Mornings at Marc Hayford want to thank you, John O'Leary. Before you go, I'm not going to let you go without just saying you guys have to get on fire. You have to read this book. Again, my 11-year-old tried stealing it and bringing it into school. We caught him, and if he's good, he'll be 12. We'll see what happens. But I just you got a couple things coming up, John, and I want to tell your fans and my fans as well how they can get more John O'Leary in their life. We all need it. All right, so here we go. So as far as I know, and stop me at any point if I have any inaccurate information, but you have a podcast called Live Inspired, okay? I believe this broke top 20 in the iTunes business, went up to number 18 from what I understand. You have a new episode that comes out every Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you guys can catch this podcast anywhere where you get podcasts, on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, okay? Also,
and with that podcast, the cool thing about what we do is we realize we're not all that great. You and I, Mark. I bring on really remarkable people. People like Brene Brown and Dave Ramsey and people that I just look up to. Joe Buck, you mentioned his name earlier. Mm-hmm. People that are just rock stars in the community or in business or in life, thought leaders. Ask them about their life, what mistakes they made, what they learned, and what we as listeners can do to author even greater significance and success going forward in our own journeys. We're all writing the book. And it's usually not the story we're telling everybody else. I want people to embrace their stories, to realize the beauty of them, and to do them, to write them, to live them, to love them even better going forward. So the podcast success, I'm 17 episodes in. The fact that it is climbing the charts, it's a credit, I think, to the guests we bring on, maybe our care for the guests, but more than that, hunger in the marketplace, that people want good stories of hope, inspiration, and possibility.
We need more of that. We need more of that in the universe, man. That's why we're doing this today. That's why you're taking the time that we appreciate. But you're not done. You also have a Live Inspired video blog series. And you got a new episode every Wednesday. It's on YouTube, okay? We're going to put that link in here so you guys not only obviously subscribe to Monday Mornings at Marc Hayford, you guys can subscribe to the Live Inspired blog series, guys. You can get some John O'Leary every Wednesday. And hey, I don't know if this is a secret here, so you tell me, John, how much information. Now, we're going to be seeing you at the Arbonne's Global Training Conference in Las Vegas at the end of April 2017. There's going to be 20,000 freaking rock star fans. They're going to be on fire, screaming, right? Tell me this. There's a brand new product that you're projecting to launch prior to that, just in time for that, very soon in a couple of weeks. Can you talk about that or not so much?
So it's still being developed. What we keep hearing from folks is they want greater access to John, that they want to be able to hang out. They want to ask questions. They want to have these chats like you and I are having right now with the mailbag showing up, but they want to be the one that kind of hand delivers it, whether that means literally hand deliver, electronically send it, or mail it in, where we can continue the conversation in a very organic, natural way. And so our expectation is to have a really cool monthly little program that people can invest in so we can continue the journey together. The title isn't yet even firm. The site isn't yet completely baked. All we know for sure is that there is people longing, and including myself, to do life and relationship and the journey better going forward. I'm looking forward to become part of that. I'm a sojourner, man. I'm not the expert. I'm trying to figure this out too. So we're going to have a really cool studio where we talk about it, where we share life, we share best practices, we share what we've learned, what we grew in, and what we can do better next week. So I imagine it coming out once a month. It's going to be a really cool show, and people can check back in. The site that holds everything currently is called johnolearyinspires.com. So if you just Google John O'Leary, that would drive you to Facebook and YouTube and everything else, but also LinkedIn there would be our primary website, which is johnolearyinspires.com.
johnolearyinspires.com.
Exactly right.
Okay, guys, you got it. So you want more John in your life? That's where you can go, and you're going to pick up a ton of it. And it sounds raw, and it sounds awesome. I cannot wait to see you in Las Vegas, my man. This will be great.
And going back to Vegas again, I know you have a partnership with Arbonne. I love Arbonne. I knew of them before we started this dance down the aisle. I am now fully all in. It's a phenomenal product, but more than that, it's a phenomenal people, phenomenal leadership. The energy that I received from 300 people in Hawaii, I almost flew home without the plane. Like I was almost like, because I was lit up. That's 320,000. Like I may need weight around me to hold me down to the stage, because the energy that these ladies and gentlemen bring, it's like nothing. And I'm not just saying this, it's true. It's like nothing I've ever experienced anywhere else. So I'm delighted to be with you in April, and I can't wait to be even farther married to the family.
It's hot, man. You're going to be like Bon Jovi in 1987 with feathered hair. It's going to be awesome.
Speaking of Bon Jovi, I was with him last night at 1:30. So yes, Bon Jovi
you were hanging out with Bon Jovi last night at 1:30?
Literally not him. I was with 20,000 other people rocking out with Bon Jovi at 1:30, and then my wife and I was friends afterwards, and we kept singing "Living on a Prayer," man. So I'm still living on a prayer. We had a blast at the event, and I look forward to living on a prayer in Vegas in a couple months.
I love it, brother. I love it, man. Hey, guys, for John O'Leary, On Fire, go get this book. Go to johnolearyinspires.com. For this Monday, for the rest of the week, we want you to go out. We want you to be on fire. We want you guys to dominate. So for my guest, John O'Leary, for your host, Marc Hayford, that's what we got. We will see you next week with another rocking guest. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for your time. Peace. Woo! I love it. I love it.
Good work. And you want